The Jerusalem Post this week issued a list of, quote, the 50 most influential Jews. And it did it kind of by grouping, so it ended up being more than 50. But one of the group of Jews that they say are most influential are what they called the philanthropists of the Jewish world. And it included Leon Cohen, Michael Dell, who's part of this consortium buying TikTok, Bill Ackman, and Larry Ellison, along with Michael Bloomberg. And that's the Jerusalem Post saying these are the Jews who are not only most influential, but from an Israeli perspective. Here's the Jerusalem Post as part of that same series, and this is what they posted on X, quote, 3 Jewish American business leaders under 50 are reshaping Hollywood and tech, with one of them seeking Israeli residency and another reinventing himself after WeWork. And included there are David Ellison and Brandon Korf and Adam Newman. David Ellison being Larry Ellison's son, who is now going to be running for his dad, CBS and Paramount, and intends to put Barry Weiss in charge of its editorial content. And Barry Weiss was also touted in this list as well. Here's another Israeli newspaper, Ynet. Isn't it amazing, by the way, that the Jerusalem Post is allowed to post a list of all the different Jewish billionaires who are taking over key sectors, whereas if anybody else who said that would be instantly decreed anti-Semitic or promoting tropes if they say it. Here's Ynet, which is also an Israeli newspaper. This was yesterday. I'm not sure why they're all using now to post their list of the most influential Jews, but they are from Israel to the diaspora, 30 of the most influential Jewish leaders. Quote, as the tumultuous Hebrew year, I guess that's why, the tumultuous Hebrew year draws to a close, 30 influential Jewish figures from Netanyahu and Mark Zuckerberg to ex-hostage Noah Argamani and NBA star Danny Avdija have shaped Israel's fate and global Jewish identity amid war. Number 6 on the list, Larry Ellison. This is not my description, this is Ynet's. Co-founder of Oracle and one of the world's wealthiest men, is also one of the most influential Jews in global business. A major donor to pro-Israel causes, Ellison has been outspoken about the need for strong U.S.-Israeli ties and has invested in cybersecurity and defense technologies that strengthen both nations. His influence stretches from boardrooms to Capitol Hill, where his voice carries weight in conversations about the strategic partnership between Israel and the United States. Not just Larry Ellison, but another person from Oracle, Safra Katz, who's now the CEO. Larry Ellison founded the company and clearly still runs it, but he doesn't run it day to day. He has Safra Katz, who's his CEO, and she was number 8 on the list of Ynet, and here's what they said about her. Remember, this is the company now basically not just running the content of TikTok, but also in charge of keeping all the data of people who use TikTok. Safra Katz, CEO of Oracle, is one of the most powerful women in global business and one of the highest-ranking Jewish executives in the world. Born in Israel and raised in the United States, Katz has led Oracle through nearly 2 decades of growth, overseeing massive acquisitions and steering the company into cloud infrastructure and AI. Under her leadership, Oracle has become a central player in global enterprise software and defense contracts, making her influence felt from Wall Street to Washington. Her presence symbolizes not only Jewish success at the highest levels of business, but also the strategic reach of Israeli-born leadership in shaping the future of technology and security. And it's amazing what the Israeli media can say that other people around the world can't say, but it's very worth reading it exactly for that reason. It often contains truths that in other contexts are not really expressible. Here is Larry Ellison in Israel. You'll be, I think, unsurprised to learn that he is there quite frequently. And he was speaking to an Israeli media outlet, Channel 10, and this was at an event called the Friends of the IDF Gala. Friends of the IDF is how American citizens, I guess, are legally permitted to donate their wealth to a foreign military. They do it through this thing called the Friends of the IDF. They just donate their own millions to the Israeli military, even though, as Trump called them today, they're American investors. And here he is describing why he's there and what he's doing.
Tell us, what is your connection to Israel?
Well, the renewal of the Jewish state is something that I think touches all of us. For 2,000 years, we were a stateless people. And now we have a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the IDF. So anything we can do to support them, who devote their lives for preserving the state of Israel, keeping the people safe, and allowing our state to continue sometimes in very, very difficult situations.
Did you visit Israel?
All right, so that's him in his own words, talking about his priority, which is supporting not just Israel, but the IDF. And here is Variety about the person who's now going to control CBS News, Paramount, possibly CNN, and also TikTok, Larry Ellison. In November of 2017, the headline, Friends of Israel Defense Forces, Gala, raises a record-breaking $53.8 million. Quote, Friends of the IDF raised a record $53.8 million at its annual Western Region Gala on Thursday night, held at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The figure represents the most money raised at any single FIDF event in the organization history. The sold-out gala, which has become one of Los Angeles' premier charitable events, united some 1,200 supporters from across the country to support the brave men and women of the Israeli Defense Forces. Is it not odd to you that on American soil, in the United States, in Los Angeles, the capital of the entertainment world, American citizens gather every year to fundraise and donate money to a foreign country's military? They don't donate that money to the American military, even though they profit enormously off the American military. All of these companies that are now in charge of TikTok are all deeply tied to the American military, to the Pentagon. They profit off the American military. They benefit from the American military. They live in the country where that military fights for, yet they donate their money and their profit that they make off the American people and off American institutions to this foreign military. The article goes on, quote, the top donation announced at the event, the largest single gift in the history of the Friends of the IDF, was $16.6 million from Oracle co-founder, executive chairman, and chief technology officer Larry Ellison. His donation will support the construction of well-being facilities on a new training campus for the IDF's co-ed infantry units. Do you think Larry Ellison is going to allow a lot of visual criticism on CBS News, on 60 Minutes, on Paramount, on TikTok? Do you think Michael Dell is? Do you think the Murdoch family will? Is there a lot on Fox News? Here is what the magazine Globes reported in October of 2024 with a picture of the Oracle headquarters. The headline was, Oracle shelves plans to build a data center in Israel. Quote, Oracle's management is considered especially pro-Israel. Let me say that again, because this is the company that now is in charge of TikTok. Oracle's management is considered especially pro-Israel. And its leaders have spoken many times in the past about expansion of their operations in Israel. Imagine how fanatical you have to be described as especially pro-Israel when it comes to America's power centers like Wall Street and Silicon Valley and Hollywood and tech. In 2021, Oracle CEO Safra Catz, who was born in Israel and grew up in the US, told Globes that unlike Google or Amazon, an employee who is not satisfied with the company's cooperation with Israel has no place in the company. Even at Google and Amazon, employees are allowed to express discomfort or concern about cooperation with Israel. Not at Oracle. The Israeli-born CEO, chosen by Larry Ellison, who now runs TikTok, said, unlike those other companies, if you don't love our cooperation with Israel for tech and defense, you have no place in our company. Loving Israel is a requirement to work at Oracle. The article went on, quote, she also stressed the importance of building an Israeli data center that would serve the local market and solve dependence on foreign companies that serve Israel remotely. Larry Ellison, who hosted Netanyahu at his Hollywood mansion while he was chairman of the opposition in 2022, and is even believed to have once offered Netanyahu a place on Oracle's board of directors. Netanyahu has run Israel for basically the last 30 years, with a few intervals where a couple other people went in, Naftali Bennett. And 2022 was one of the very few times, or a little bit of a period of time, where Netanyahu wasn't running Israel. And Larry Ellison offered him a seat on Oracle's board of directors, Benjamin Netanyahu. Obviously, all sorts of extremely rich people would ensure that Netanyahu had an extremely lucrative prime minister life, if they haven't already ensured that. I doubt Netanyahu is struggling financially. But it just shows you the extremely close ties between Larry Ellison and not just Israel, but Netanyahu and the IDF. And I guess if you want to be naive, you could say, I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence that exactly at the moment that American support for Israel is unprecedentedly unraveling, this person who has made Israel his center of his life, Larry Ellison, decided to buy CBS News, Paramount, and control TikTok, at the same time trying to buy CNN. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it has nothing to do with Israel. Or maybe you can embrace the obvious reality that that is the primary motive. Last night, or rather on Tuesday night, we interviewed the independent journalist Jack Polson, who had been working with the leak of the email inbox of Israeli official Benny Gantz, and there were a lot of revelations in there, and one of them was about, as you can see from this article on Jack Polson's Substack, was about the attempts by David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son, who's now in control of CBS and Paramount, to, as the title put it, exclusive new owner of CBS, coordinated with former Israel military chief to counter the country's critics, according to leaked emails. And it was basically describing how David Ellison, who now bought Paramount and CBS with his dad, was working directly with the Israeli military to shape public opinion in the United States to undermine Israel's critics. Do you think they might use their media platforms for that goal? You might also recall that TikTok has actually made some changes before this forced sale that were demanded by the ADL, including this extremely significant one. This is from July of 2025, as reported by not Tucker Carlson, not Candace Owens, not Nick Fuentes, but by the Jerusalem Post. And the title was, TikTok's new hate speech manager is a former IDF soldier and a proud Zionist. Erica Mendel's new position involves developing and driving the company's public policy positions on hate speech, according to her description. So essentially, the ADL demanded that TikTok, in order to address what the ADL claims is its anti-Semitism problem, hire a content manager specifically devoted to censoring the site relating to Israel and anti-Semitism. And the person they gave to TikTok, which TikTok then dutifully hired at a remarkably high salary, I think it's something like $380,000 or $400,000 a year, is an American citizen, one of those who went to Israel and joined the IDF and fought in the IDF, and basically her entire adult career has been talking about her love of Israel, her loyalty to Israel. She's an IDF soldier. And she's now in charge of censoring content as hate speech pertaining to Israel and Jews on the grounds with the stated goal of cleansing the site of anti-Semitism. I mean, you can see exactly what's happening here, right? Without having to lay it all out. It's really quite self-evident and explicit. Aside from the content aspect, there's also this surveillance aspect. As I said, Oracle is the company that is going to keep all the data from TikTok users. They already retain a lot of it as part of what the US was trying to do. TikTok was saying, look, we don't have any interest in controlling the content of our site or in spying on you. We're a for-profit company. We just want to make billions of dollars. And whatever we have to do to stay in the US, just tell us what we have to do. and they started hiring away from Facebook and Google huge numbers of former NSA and Pentagon and FBI and CIA officers to run their content moderation. And they were saying, we don't care about the data. You can keep it in the United States. And it was Oracle that was chosen to keep it. So now it's Oracle that will be actually in charge of all the user data of anybody who uses TikTok. And Larry Ellison, I remember going back to the Snowden reporting, was a harsh critic of Edward Snowden and of our reporting. He was a big believer in the NSA. He loves surveillance. Obviously, he's in Silicon Valley. He has tons of contracts with the deep state. And here he was at the Oracle Financial Analyst meeting just last year, September of last year. And he's talking about how surveillance is going to become even more ubiquitous, even more invasive as a result of artificial intelligence. And here are all the reasons why he thinks it's a great thing.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Oh, did you hear that? Do you hear what he just said? I just want to make sure that we process this. He said, citizens, as long as there's a ubiquitous surveillance state where you're constantly being watched, you're going to be on your best behavior. Because everything you do is going to be watched by AI, and if there's anything wrong with it, it's going to be reported to the government. When I was doing the Snowden reporting, and we were reporting on how the NSA had converted the internet into this weapon of mass surveillance, mass warrantless surveillance, I used to always hear the argument, well, what do I care if the government is spying on everybody and reading all my emails and listening to my communications? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a pedophile. Why should I care? I have nothing to hide. And I had been debating this issue for months. Everywhere I went around the world to do the Snowden reporting, I was hearing this. And so finally I put together a speech. I gave a TED Talk. It was called Why Privacy Matters. And the thesis of it is basically exactly what Larry Ellison just said, only I didn't consider it a positive thing the way he did. I considered it extremely destructive of humanity, which is that human beings need privacy because it's only when you have a private realm, when you're able to think and make decisions and engage in behavior and experiment without judgmental eyes of society being cast upon you, are you able to make decisions that are the byproduct of your own autonomy and agency. It's where dissent and creativity and exploration exclusively reside, in the private realm. And there's all kinds of psychological studies, but also developments in architecture and philosophy and in religion and theology that recognize what Larry Ellison just said, which is that in contrast to the private realm where you're free to engage in the behavior that you want, if you know that you're being watched, or even if you know that you have the potential to be watched, the decisions that you make are no longer ones that are the byproduct of your own agency or autonomy. You make sure that your behavior and your statements and your views are aligned with societal demands and government expectations. Basically, surveillance, a surveilled society creates a conformist society. I personally think that's very destructive of what makes humanity valuable. Larry Ellison thinks it's great because it keeps you in line. It keeps you obedient. As he said, you're always going to be watched, and you know you're always going to be watched, so you're going to be better behaved. Better behaved from Larry Ellison's perspective. Here's what he went on to say.
And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off, it's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. If there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple. And the new generation of autonomous drones.
So he tried to emphasize what he knew most people in an audience would find at least palatable. The idea that, oh, look, this ubiquitous surveillance, not the kind that we reported with the Snowden reporting, that's archaic by now, but artificial intelligence-driven surveillance where the algorithms are constantly monitoring everybody and assessing your behavior. And if the artificial intelligence and its programming detects behavior, not just on the part of the police, but as he said, every citizen that it considers, or the people who control it consider to be divergent from what you ought to be doing and saying and thinking, it will automatically report you to the authorities. And basically, you won't even need the authorities to do anything, because knowing that you're always being watched will ensure that you won't engage in any of the behavior that displeases people in power. This is his vision. He doesn't consider that dystopian. He considers that exciting, because he and people like him are in control of this technology and consider the power that vests in them. And that would be newsworthy itself, just that clip, in terms of what's coming in terms of surveillance and how these people think about it. But the fact that he's now coming out of the shadows, there's a lot of billionaires who are very well known in the spotlight, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Bill Gates, people like that, Michael Bloomberg, now Bill Ackman. Larry Ellison has typically flown under the radar, even though he's someone of great wealth and power. And like a lot of the Israel lobby, he's forced to come out in a much more brazen and blatant way than he's accustomed to doing, because, as I said, they're driven by panic. They're trying to stem this tide of the collapse of support among Americans for Israel, which Israel considers existential, because America provides them with the money and the weapons and support and protection they need to be the bully of their region, to dominate their region. And they're petrified of losing that, of having to stand on their own. And you watched Jonathan Greenblatt say, we have to capture TikTok. That's as important, if not more so, than capturing land or defeating Hezbollah and Hamas. And then 9 months later, Larry Ellison, the single largest donor to the IDF in the world, buys CBS, and Paramount tried to buy CNN, is now in control of TikTok, both its data and its content. And that's why it's so crucial to spend the time to delve into who he is, what these deals are, and what is driving them, because it's hard to imagine anything more consequential. And that's why I say it is clearly one of the most important events of 2025. And I would say easily the most significant event that has received far too little journalistic coverage and attention. And we hope to rectify that with our reporting tonight and with the reporting that we intend to continue to do as all of this unfolds, as it undoubtedly will. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.